Hello and welcome. I'm Sam Califer, your host for Vision, the show where we talk all about the College of Arts and Sciences as well as its faculty and students. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Deb Melzner, an associate professor in the Department of Chemistry. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for letting me come.
Yes, I'm excited to have you on and talk about all your great research and the work that you do. But first, I was hoping you could just introduce yourself, talk about your professional experience and how you came to Mississippi State.
Well, thank you. Yes, my name is Deb Mslna, and I'm a professor in the Department of Chemistry. I was a chemistry major when I got my undergraduate degree at Davidson College, and then I got my PhD in biochemistry from the University of Texas at Austin. About 14 years ago, my husband and I were both looking for jobs at a major institution, and we both landed here at Mississippi State in the Department of Chemistry.
Great. Yeah, I think that is so interesting that you get to work with your husband, and you two are really kind of a power couple, always getting a lot of great work done. So that's great, and I wanted to have you on. Like I was saying, y'all do such great work, and some of that are these great trips that you prepare for undergraduate students, and they focus on research and experiential learning, trips, across the country and across the world. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to talk about that. It seems like some really cool experiences. And to start, I wanted to ask you, why do you think those kinds of experiences are so important, and how does it help with student learning?
Well, I absolutely agree that when a student can engage and really experience aspects to help them connect what they're learning with the real world, I think they can learn so much more, and they can make connections between what they're learning and what they want to be doing. And so you're right, Mississippi State does a wonderful job focusing in on experiential learning, and I think that it's going to be continuing to be a focus for the university as they keep moving forward.
Great, yes, and I agree. There's just something about getting outside of your comfort zone. Yes. And I think seeing maybe what the work, the career looks like is a really big help on students to understand what they want to do. So I think it's important, and I like all the great trips that you take students on. And so one of those is the REU program. It stands for Research Experiences for Undergraduates. And I understand you just got back this summer. You went down to Gulfport with some students. So could you talk about that for a bit?
Well, the program is founded by the National Science Foundation, and we've had an REU program at Mississippi State for 6 years and are continuing for at least another 3 years. The focus of the program is to get students from other universities here to MSU to do research in the laboratory and to work on a wide variety of projects. Because really here at Mississippi State, we have so many wonderful resources, lots of wonderful instrumentation, and these students can get access to doing research where they can't really get a chance to do that at another institution. So some of the research projects for our REU is looking at the effects of microplastics in marine life. And they're looking at what impact microplastics has for dolphins and sea turtles that are swimming in the Gulf of Mexico. And so as part of that project, we coordinated with the Institute for Marine Mammal Studies and went down to Gulfport to see what they do to rehabilitate the dolphins and sea turtles. And we also got a chance to participate as they were releasing the sea turtles back into the ocean.
That is so fascinating. The microplastics and pollution has become such a big, deal in our time. Yeah. And, so for students to get to see that and maybe the tangible results of it, getting to release the animals back into the wildlife, I feel like that would be such a rewarding experience.
I really do agree. I think the students really enjoyed seeing that connection for how what they're doing in the research lab really can be making a difference for the wildlife as they're trying to go back and live in a clean environment.
Sure.
And so it seemed to be something that the students really enjoyed.
Good. And yeah, you were, they're in the lab helping with this process. What are some specific skills or research practice that they're getting in during this trip?
Well, really, for all of our students doing research, each undergraduate student has a different research project. And so for each student, they're learning skills specific to their particular research. But for all the students, they're learning how to be able to collect data in the research lab, how to be able to analyze their data, and how to be able to use some of the really high-tech instrumentation that we have here at Mississippi State.
Sure, yeah, they wouldn't get that opportunity elsewhere. This equipment is very expensive, it's hard to get your hands on, so they're getting that firsthand experience with it.
That's exactly right. And for these students as well, part of the focus is to try and have them consider growing up to be scientists and engaging into STEM-focused career paths. So we're trying to help the students see what opportunities are out there by helping them see what it's like to do research for an intensive summer.
Sure, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a peek into that world and what you could be doing if you chose to pursue it. So I think that is such a great experience that people need. You know, they need to know what options there are out there and maybe even spark their passion and interest for it in the first place. So,
that's the hope.
Yeah. So that's great. I mean, that sounds like a great experience. That was right down in Gulfport. So awesome experience, research trip, but you know, not too far, not too you know, unmanageable for a lot of people. You know, it's right here in the state. But then you have another one, and you just told me that you did the study abroad trip twice. You take a group of students to Iceland and Scandinavia for a study abroad experience. So what is that trip about?
Well, this trip is primarily directed by my husband, Deb Melzner, and I get to help and direct this trip. But the focus of the trip is to study alternative energy sources. And so the students are able to study geothermal energy in Iceland, hydroelectric when we're running around in Norway, and then wind power in both Denmark and Sweden. And so the students are able to travel for 3 weeks, and they really get a chance to see hands-on how these different renewable energy plants work, and also how it affects the region that is using that particular renewable energy. So the idea for students is they're trying to get a better understanding of how these renewable energies can fit into our future landscape for what we need with our energy needs.
Sure, yeah, and I mean, I think that is such a great trip. You know, it has the scientific aspect where it's, you know, you study that these are different types of ways of producing energy, but it still does have a, you know, a culture clash. You're seeing different countries and cultures and the way they approach energy management. And so I think that would be such a well-rounded, you know, experience for someone. And yeah, I mean, like I just said, you know, they are going to different countries. They're seeing different ways of making this power. What kind of like feedback and how does that trip like change their worldview possibly?
Well, we do get really good comments coming back from this trip, and it is a popular study abroad trip for students to sign up for. We ran 2 different trips in this last summer, and we had a total of 64 students that were involved with that study abroad. The students really say it helps to change their perspective and gives them a much more global understanding of how the countries really are not so far apart and we're all interrelated with each other. So I do think it's a wonderful trip for the students.
Great, yeah, and what we were talking about right before we went on air is, you know, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of STEM study abroad. I think people think about it in terms of the humanities, so that's why it really stood out to me. You know, it's like you can go to different countries and learn new things about any subject, and you know, so this is STEM and chemistry and energy production. So I think that's a very inventive way, I guess, of doing a study abroad trip.
Well, it is true. We do have a lot of science and engineering students that express interest in the trip, but we also have business majors and English majors that are coming along for the experience because, you know, they find the trip, it's going to be interesting.
Yes, I mean, it sounds so interesting to me, and I think anyone could plug in. I mean, it also seems like comparative government and policy could be in there, seeing how different countries manage that aspect. So just so fascinating, and I'm glad that our students have those opportunities. And so maybe someone's listening and they're interested and they want to sign up for these trips. How could they get in contact? Who can sign up for it? What would you say to someone who's interested in learning more about these trips?
Right. Well, there's two different ways to find out about things. For students wanting to do study abroad, I would direct them to the Mississippi State Study Abroad website. All the programs are described there, along with information about how to apply and what the deadlines are to apply. For students that want to do research, if they're here at Mississippi State and want to do research during the academic year, they should email me and we'll help them get them connected in with a research project. For students interested in the REU summer programs, I would have them search for NSF REU, and that will bring up a website with about 80 different REU programs scattered all over the United States, and students can apply for a wide variety of different research experiences.
Great, yes, and it's great to hear you want to hear from these people,
Oh, yeah.
and that's what professors and administration is here for. We want to get our students plugged in. Those authentic, study abroad or research trips can really change the trajectory of someone's life and career. So, there's people here to help them if they're interested in doing that.
And one comment is we get feedback from students all the time that when they're interviewing for jobs, it's these experiences the employers want to know about.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and speaking with me about all this great work. I'm sure there's someone here who is going to take it to heart and apply to one of these trips. So thank you for joining me. And thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Vision. We'll see you next time.